Welcome to Trust Talks with BBB serving CT. I'm Kristen Johnson. In business, trust talks, and Better Business Bureau's mission is to enhance marketplace trust. In each one of our episodes, we hope to give you a better idea of what to look for, what to look out for, and what to expect so you can spend your money wisely and avoid being scammed. And today we're going to talk about an important part of the home buying process, the home inspection. Joining us today are Bruce Walsh. He is the owner of All Pro Inspection Services in Southington, and Nick Burris, who's a client of All Pro. Nick's going to share some tales of disaster avoided by making sure his properties were inspected before being purchased. Here are some of the top reasons to have a home you have your eye on inspected before you sign on the dotted line. Hiring a home inspector gives you peace of mind. It gives you an in-depth understanding of your home's condition. Avoiding buyer's remorse due to not fully understanding your home's condition and feeling confident in your decision to purchase the home. So Bruce and Nick, let's go over some of those reasons that I just described. Hiring a home inspector does give you an in-depth understanding of your home's condition. What kinds of things can you learn from the report that you receive, Bruce?
Yeah, so the average person doesn't really fully understand the inner workings of a home. They look at the curb appeal of the home. They look at the number of bedrooms and bathrooms, the upgrades, and that's pretty much it. They don't really go through the whole house. A home inspector is going to go from the outside of the home and look at every single aspect of the home, the roof, the chimney, the gutters, the siding, the trim, the doors, windows, foundation, the topography, the land even the landscaping around the home is covered during an inspection. Walkways, driveways, handrails, porches, decks, outbuildings. And that's just the outside. So already you can see how much is involved that the average home buyer isn't going to look at all those things. Again, curb appeal, number of bedrooms, bathrooms. That's what they look at generally. They don't go into the attic. They don't go into the basement. So once we're done outside, we're going inside the home, room by room, checking all the floors, walls, ceilings, doors, windows, electrical outlets, plumbing fixtures, heating and air conditioning systems. We're going into the attic, checking for insulation, ventilation systems, framing, make sure there's no mold or moisture intrusion coming through the roof. We go into the basement. We're looking at all the foundation walls, main carrying beams, lally columns, structural integrity of the building, framing, heating systems, air conditioning systems, electrical panels. It's a very in-depth process, and the average person is not looking at all that. It's about a 3-hour process to be done correctly. And it's imperative that you have a home inspection done. You're taking a big risk if you don't. It
sounds like even if we were, as the home buyers, to look at every inch of the house, we wouldn't necessarily know what we're looking for. I mean, you really have to be an expert in the field.
You do. I have over 25 years of experience in the construction industry. I started out as a kid in high school framing houses for builders. And then after college, I got into construction project management on the commercial side. So I have a lot of experience in the industry. And even when I bought a home, I had a home inspection done only because I wanted a document from a licensed home inspector in case I wanted to get out of the home. If you have a home inspection and you don't have an inspection done, and you want out of the deal for whatever reason, you may not get your deposit back because you don't have a home inspection report to give you a legitimate reason to get out of it. So they may be able to keep your $5,000 or $10,000 deposit legally doing so.
Wow.
So it's so important for that reason as well.
That's a good tip. So Nick, I had mentioned it also helps you avoid buyer's remorse. You've learned some important information about the properties you've invested in by having a home inspection first, correct?
Correct. So actually the first house we bought here in Bristol, Bruce is our inspector, obviously, for us, a 3-family house, but there were 2 detrimental issues that he warned us about prior to them becoming issues. So he warned us that the boiler was on the last leg of its life. He said it had about 1 to 2 years left in it. 2 years being like a blessing if we got that far. He also let us know there were some issues with the roof. There was a lot of patches that were not done that well. It was a very old roof as well. So when the time did come for those things to be replaced, the boiler actually exploded on us. 1.5 years left into the cycle. We already had that budgeted aside. So we had that money budgeted over the rental income. We also put some more aside as we knew we're going to have to take care of those improvements down the line. So when the boiler went, we were able to take care of it. And when the roof, when we decided to replace the roof, we had the money set aside to do that as well without any issues, without having to finance anything or try and pull money. We already had it set aside for those improvements.
And Nick, I know you flip houses as well. Do you always recommend your clients have a home inspection, and do you always have all of your properties inspected?
Yeah, so it depends on what we're looking to buy. I always have, I sell houses as well. I'm a licensed realtor. I always advise my clients to get a home inspection done. I personally won't I'm not going to be an agent that says, let's waive the inspections or let's try and go without it, make our offer stronger. You can put an as-is offer out there with inspections. At least you know what's wrong with the property. You know what things you maybe have to budget for, money you have to set aside. For me, especially if it's a long-term buy and hold, I try and have it always inspected because, say it's fully occupied as tenants in place, I'm not going to do a renovation. I like to know if there's anything that I might not be able to catch. I like to have an inspector go into every single unit just because when I'm doing an initial walkthrough, I can look at it quick, but I can't really take a peek at everything. I can't take a peek at the plumbing. I can go into the basement quick, but if it's a showing, I'm not there for a significant amount of time to really look at what I might need to do. So I do recommend getting inspection, especially if you're an investor looking for a long-term property, just so you can know what you're going to have to fix or budget for down the line.
Bruce, how much does the average home inspection cost in Connecticut?
So there's no set pricing on home inspections. It varies from home inspector to home inspector. But for me, the average size home, 1,600 square feet or smaller, is $450. And then for every 100 square feet, it goes up $10. And then when you talk about older homes, antique homes, there's a little upcharge for that because it's much more involved. Larger homes, there's a little bit more travel distances. So there's a lot of variables that change the cost of a home inspection. Number of services you add to it. Okay. But on average, I'd say $450 is a good number.
Okay,
for a home inspection.
And what point of the home buying process do you schedule the inspection?
Yeah, so once the buyer's offer is accepted by the seller, that's when you go ahead and pull the trigger on calling a home inspector. And I recommend that you don't procrastinate on that process. A lot of times I'll get calls and say, oh, they accepted my offer 2 weeks ago and I'm calling for a home inspection. As soon as the offer is accepted, it's imperative that you get on the phone and start making calls right then and there to home inspectors.
Okay, and so take me through the home inspection process. What can the home buyer expect? What deficiencies are you as the home inspector looking for, and how long does it typically take? Yeah,
again, it takes on average about 3 hours for a good thorough home inspection. For me, I am a natural born teacher, so I like to teach clients, especially first-time home buyers. For me, I tell my clients it's an interactive process. Okay. I encourage you to ask questions as we go through the process. I encourage you to stay with me during the entire process. This way, when you read my report, and I do a very detailed narrative style report. I don't do any checkbox reporting. I don't use any program, computer program, software systems. It's a narrative style with pictures. And if you're going through the process with me, when you read the report, you're going to recall from memory everything that we talked about. It'll come back to you. And then I also offer, when they're going through the report after I send it to them, if you have any questions, you give me a call at any point. Even after you're in the home, you could call me.
That's nice.
But it takes about 3 hours to do an inspection correctly on the average size home. And it could take longer on larger homes and antique homes.
I'm sure that puts new first-time home buyers at ease, though, knowing that they have someone in their corner. Yeah. So, Nick, Bruce just talked about attending the home inspection. Mm-hmm. Would it be a red flag to you if the home inspector or if the realtor says that you shouldn't be there, you don't have to be there?
It wouldn't be a huge red flag. It would raise slight concerns because especially if the home inspector was referred to you by the agent, this is obviously, it goes against ethics. It goes against codes. I know home inspectors have a code that they adhere to, but you don't want there to be, say, the home inspector kind of skimping out on a couple items just so the agent can then get their commission check and then refer them to the next deal. You want to make sure you're there looking at everything. You want to make sure you're there asking questions. You want to make sure you're there. As say you don't know about plumbing or something like that under the sink, or you maybe notice something the inspector doesn't catch. You want to be there to point it out or just ask a question. That way you know. And you're safe down the line, and you have all your questions answered moving forward.
So you always attend your home inspections?
Oh, for sure. Even as the agent, I attend the home inspections. If my client can't get there, I'll make sure I'm there. That way, at least one of us is there. So if I need to ask a question, I can. If I need to take some pictures, send it to them, have everything kind of documented, I could do that as well.
Speaking of pictures, Bruce, should the client expect pictures from you?
Yeah, I probably take on average over 300 pictures during an inspection. Sometimes more, sometimes a little less, depending on the size of the home. But yeah, absolutely. In my reports, I have, again, I can't speak for all home inspectors, but in my reports, I have pictures, I have captions under the pictures, arrows pointing to items of concern, and then the preceding paragraph will elaborate on what I'm trying to get across in the picture. So,
what are some of the physical deficiencies you're looking for?
Structural integrity is at the very top of the list for any building. So, that's looking at everything we talked about before I'm looking at, but, that's at the top of the list. Moisture intrusion is another big issue. that could result in mold in basements and things like that. And people who have asthma or asthmatic or have allergies, things like that, could get sick in homes like that. So, and then electrical, the things that I find most often that are real concerns are electrical issues. So a lot of electrical issues in homes. Plant growth on roofs. So a lot of people don't realize. I was doing an inspection for a couple, and there was a lot of plant growth on the roof, lichen, moss, and black blue-green algae on the roof. And I said to the gentleman, the previous owners or the current owners haven't maintained the roof properly. And he said, "You have to maintain a roof?" And I said, "Yeah, it's important to maintain all aspects, all parts of a home." So plant growth on a roof shortens the lifespan of a roof by many, many years. Gutters that are filled with leaf and twig debris and overflowing, a lot of times they backflow into the home and create a lot of damage inside, moisture damage inside. What you have to realize on a home or any building, the envelope, which is the outside, the roof, and all the penetrations, windows, doors, trim, siding, that's called the envelope of a building, and it's imperative you keep that weather tight. That protects everything inside. Okay. And if you allow, holes in the roof, siding missing, trim missing, rotted wood, things like that, gutters that are overflowing, those are all the types of things that cause interior damage. Now it's not just the exterior you're fixing, it's interior components you have to fix as well, costing you a lot more money.
That's a good point. Now, so Nick, Bruce talked about physical deficiencies, but an inspection can really bring to light some of the invisible problems in a home, and you've seen this firsthand.
Definitely, yeah, no. So radon is a very big issue. It's invisible gas, right? It comes from the basement, especially comes from like dirt roads or like Bruce said, I think concrete.
Yeah, as
rocks.
rock and soil erodes, if it contains uranium, it'll all radon gas, and it's the second leading cause of lung cancer.
Second leading cause of cancer. So we actually had I wasn't a buyer's agent on this one. I was a selling agent. And this particular client, they didn't know that they had radon in their basement, obviously, until the buyers did a home inspection, and they noticed that there was a significant amount of radon in the basement, and there was actually somebody living in the basement. They had a room down there, they had a bedroom, it was a walkout. So obviously that's dangerous because it can cause cancer. So you always want to make sure that you are getting that tested, just to be sure, especially if you do plan on using those as a living quarters, maybe making an in-law down there, putting a bed down there. You don't want to be breathing it. You don't want issues on the line. It's also, it could be in water. If you have well water and you have a well, you want to make sure, like, what is the iron count in the water? Because nobody wants to drink extremely irony water. It tastes like metal. You know what I mean? And it could also be red, depending on the amount of, if you let it sit, like in a cup, like the water will actually turn red and orange, and that's what you're drinking. So you don't want to be drinking that amount of iron. So you want to make sure you do get your water tested, you get your air tested to make sure these invisible issues aren't going to cause you issues down the line.
And should you get them tested again after you buy the home as well?
Yeah. So well water is affected by the environment on a daily basis. I always recommend to my clients who have well water to test annually. Okay, and not just do a basic profile, but to do a standard profile, which covers arsenic, uranium, lead, radon water, chemical, physical, bacterial. There's about 26 different line items in that spectrum that it covers, and a lot of them are carcinogens, like the arsenic, uranium, lead, radon water. Those are all things that cause organ cancer. So it's really important that you do that. And then radon gas, it changes constantly. Okay, it's coming up through all homes have some level of radon gas. I've never tested a home that had zero. Some have very low and some have very high. But like Nick said, it's the second leading cause of lung cancer right after cigarette smoke. I recommend that everyone test their home for radon gas without a doubt across the board, because it is the second leading cause of lung cancer and it's preventable. I inspect homes with bedrooms in the basement, family rooms in the basement, and I asked the owners, have you tested for radon? No, what is radon? So it's still not, you would think in this day and age that people understand it or know that it's out there, but it's still not widely known that it exists. And it's colorless and odorless, so you can't, and it's not in certain areas of town and other areas of the state. It's not like that. It's a very fickle gas. It could be almost anywhere.
It's scary. So once you get your report and you see the deficiencies, what as the buyer can you do with that information?
Yeah, so in my reports, I tell them what's going on. I tell them why it's going on, and then I give them a solution. I tell them this is the contractor you would need for a painting contractor, plumbing contractor, heating contractor, electrician, whatever it is. So that's how they would address it. I tell them this is the problem, this is why it's happening in my report, and this is how you fix it.
Okay. Can they renegotiate the price with that information, potentially bring the price down?
So prior to COVID, that was common practice to negotiate with sellers after they got the home inspection report. And prior to COVID, I was so busy I couldn't even keep up with the number of home inspections the calls that I would get in. First year of COVID, it stayed that way. After that, I dropped. I lost about 40% in business.
Which is amazing because we know the market's hot. It's a seller's market. So what do you attribute that to?
Well, because it is a seller's market, and because the prices of homes are inflated, okay, a lot of sellers who want to sell their home are sitting on their homes, okay? So there's inventory shortages. The interest rates are higher, so people are waiting for the interest rates to come down. So a lot of the sellers have the upper hand, and they're kind of passing on people who want home inspections. You should get a home inspection and just say it's for informational purposes only. You should never pass on a home inspection. It's so important to have one done.
And who pays for the home inspection?
The buyer would pay for the home inspection.
Okay. But it's not required, it sounds like.
It's not required. It is not required to have a home inspection. I wish it were, because more people would be protected if it was required. But it is not.
Are there issues that you see most commonly come up in a home inspection that we as homeowners who might want to sell their homes one day should know about? Like, what's the most common problem, or is it just kind of all over the place?
There's things that are more prevalent than other electrical issues.
Yeah, you had said
electrical issues are the biggest thing that I see, are the biggest safety hazard. And I see more electrical deficiencies in homes than anything else. But there are a whole host of other things, but that would be at the top of the list, I would say.
Do you think if you are planning on selling your home, you should get it inspected ahead of time so that you know what issues might be brought to light and there are no surprises?
Yeah, that's a good point. I've done that on occasion. Not a lot of people are savvy enough to know to do that. But it does give them, so my report is like a homeowner's manual, and it gives a seller like a kind of a guideline.
Yeah.
Things that they can go through and say, okay, Bruce found this, let's do that. But yeah, this over here, it's as is, we're not going to do that. And it gives them some time to prepare for the sale of the property, fix a few things that they want to, increasing the property value, and hopefully moving the sale along quicker if they do that. For sure, there is a benefit to it.
Speaking of moving the sale along quicker, I want you both to weigh in on this. You kind of alluded to it earlier, but this idea that the agent and the inspector are in cahoots, that the agent often will tell you which inspector you should use, and then perhaps that inspector will cover things up in order for that agent to get the sale. Is that something that we should be worried about?
I wouldn't say it's something to be worried about. I would say it's something to look out for, because obviously, as agents, as inspectors, we all are sworn to a code of ethics. You want everybody to be doing good business, right? Mm-hmm. But there's, at the end of the day, people will be people. So I'm just saying, always protect yourself in those situations. If you do think something's kind of going on, feel free to shop around, look at different options. Google is extremely important. Having a Better Business Bureau logo on your product is also extremely important, because at least you know those people, those are trusted companies. They've been used for a significant amount of time. Also, look at who's been in business the longest. Obviously, if you give somebody new and they're hungry for business, sure, you can give them a shot. But if you want to make sure you're making the best decision, see who has the best reviews, see who's accredited, and see who's been in the business longer with the most experience. Those are most likely the people who are going to give you the best product, best bang for your buck.
So you don't have to go with the person your agent is.
Correct. You don't have to go. You can use anybody you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bruce, do you see this as an issue in your industry, and how can we avoid it?
So before home inspections, inspectors were required to be licensed and certified. Anyone with a pickup truck could be a home inspector. So I would imagine, and there were a lot of lawsuits back then, and that's why the state stepped in and said, you have to be licensed. So you have to, it's a stringent process. You have to get a license. As a buyer hiring a home inspector, you can request to see this, and they have to provide it. That's a license, saying that it's a licensed home inspector. There's also Connecticut Standards of Practice. You can see it's a pretty lengthy document here, and these are all the do's and don'ts for home inspectors. And there's a lot of liability for home inspectors. So to be in cahoots with a real estate agent could be a dangerous position to be in as a home inspector, because you have to protect your client, number one, and you also have to protect yourself. So to kowtow to a real estate agent and do a report or an inspection the way they want it done, wouldn't be a good idea for a home inspector.
So if you decide to venture out on your own and hire your own home inspector, you obviously, as you said, you want to make sure they have the proper licensing and certification. But what else should we look for in a home inspector?
Yeah, so when you should usually call home inspectors and interview them, right? Set down some questions, things that are really important to you before you start calling around. Ask them how long have they, how long have they been in the construction industry? Like I've been in the construction industry for over 25 years. Some home inspectors used to be, computer analysts, and they wanted to be home inspectors. I'm not saying all of them, but that's one thing. Ask them their experience. How long have they been in business? Are they licensed? Can you provide the license? How many home inspections have you done? Those are really all important questions that I would ask. How long does the inspection process take? If a home inspector says, oh, it will be done in an hour and you don't have to attend the home inspection, red flags, right? Home inspector isn't able to provide a license. You ask them for their license. Oh, I don't have one, or I can't find it. Those are all concerns.
If the inspector offers to do the repairs themselves for you, is that a conflict of interest?
Absolutely. Again, going back to the days before licensing and certification were required, the home inspectors out there would do the work on the homes, and they refer their friends or brothers or whomever to do work on the home, and a lot of people were getting ripped off. So that's one of in the Connecticut Standards of Practice, that's one of the things we cannot do. If we've inspected a home, we can't work on it, and we cannot refer contractors. I have people ask me all the time, can you refer a roofer for it? I said, I know a lot of them, but I can't do that. I could lose my license if I refer a contractor.
Oh, wow.
So we can't refer or do work on a home.
Okay. So it sounds like scams are less common in this industry, but are there any other red flags that we need to be watching out for?
Yeah, again, when you talk to the home inspector and he says, there's no need for you to be there, I'll send you the report. Home inspectors would tell you, if you're going to be, how long is the home inspection? No, we could do it in an hour or less. Should take at least 3 hours to do a thorough home inspection. Again, doesn't have a license to show you. So those are all concerns. That would concern me.
Okay.
And then a number of years in business. And I always tell my clients, when I don't refer contractors, but I say you need a roofing contractor, the best place to start is the BBB. Look at the BBB. If they're in good standing with the BBB, then they're reputable, they could be trusted. Yeah,
and you can look at the reviews, you can look at the complaints, you can look at how that person handled the complaints, because even good businesses, sometimes they'll get a complaint or two, whether it's valid or not, and you can see how they responded, and you can decide for yourself, is that something that would concern me, or am I okay with that?
Absolutely.
So Nick, say that you have been misled by this inspector, and a lot of issues pop up after you sign on the dotted line and you own the house. Do you have any recourse if you've been misled on the condition of your home?
Yeah, no. So obviously you can call an inspector back. You can see why they stated X, Y, and Z. But if you wanted to pursue any recourse, I would definitely recommend consulting legal counsel, consulting an attorney. As agents, there's not much we could do. Technically speaking, I mean, you can review the disclosures. Every property that's being sold has a condition disclosure that's provided by the seller. Obviously, unless it's waived, then you have to sign that is being waived, and you get a $500 credit. But say there was something that was blatantly the seller lied to you about on the disclosures, you can obviously try to go after the seller. But in any sort of action against either the seller or the home inspector, I would always recommend seeking legal counsel so they can guide you best.
Okay. And Bruce, what is the most common question you get from your clients, and what's a question you wish that more asked you?
So the most common question I get, which I wish people wouldn't ask me, is, should I buy the home? Would you buy the home? And I can't answer that question. And my answer to them is always, I can't answer that question. But what I can do is I can give you this report. You read through the report and then make an educated decision based on my report whether you should buy or pass on the home.
Okay.
And the question I wish they would ask is, where can I leave a review for you? You did a great job.
And where can they leave you a review?
The BBB, I have hundreds of them on the BBB, A+ rating and 5-star reviews all across the board at the BBB.
BBB.org. Speaking of Better Business Bureau, my final question is, why did you choose to become accredited with Better Business Bureau? And what have you gotten out of that accreditation? What do you hope it really says to your client?
Yeah, so the reason I got I'm affiliated with the BBB is just because whenever I see the BBB logo in a business, I know I could trust them, because the BBB holds businesses to a higher standard. And And that's the main reason why I got started with the BBB. And the other reason is just the number of business people in the BBB, the network that's there. It's just phenomenal how many professionals are involved, big companies as well involved in the BBB. And it's just a really great organization to be involved in.
And you also have some fun being part of BBB.
A lot of
we
fun.
see you at our networking
the baseball
event.
game. I saw we saw the event for the Sun that's coming up soon.
Are you going to be at the basketball game?
I'm going to try to get there for the basketball game. A lot of great events, a lot of great social gatherings. The only thing we don't have yet is a golf tournament. We have to get one of those in there.
We used to have one,
Did you?
here pre-pandemic. Yeah. That was before my time, but I think I'll let the powers that be know that you would be interested in participating.
Yes, absolutely.
But yes, we do some networking events just so that our other accredited businesses get to know each other, because you use services too. You're not just a business owner, you're also a customer and a consumer.
Yeah,
so
it's a great network.
Well, Bruce and Nick, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate all of your insight, and I think it was very educational for me, and I'm sure everyone out there. So
very good. Thank
appreciate
you for having
you
us.
coming back.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us for Trust Talks. Again, go to bbb.org to find a inspector near you that's accredited with Better Business Bureau. We'll see you next time.
Nutmeg TV has been providing community television for over 30 years. We needed some studio upgrades, and Ion Bank believed in us. As a result of Ion Bank's financial help, we've been able to help others move on in a field that's difficult to get experience in. You're working with partners who understand who you are, and Ion Bank does that. They walk with us every day. It's community banking at its best.